Hey, good, good, good. So basically, Social Security Administration released very recently, I think it was either today or yesterday, an emergency message. So this is like breaking news, just came out. It is EM 25042. Again, EM 25042. Now, for those of you who don't know, these emergency messages are released from the Social Security Administration as internal kind of documents. Specifically, they mention the originating office, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and then basically they send out the details of how the SSA going forward has to change how it's interacting with people so that they basically can follow the law better. Now, the thing about this is that this is something that affects you if you are one of those TriCare individuals. If you're not a TriCare individual, or somebody that falls into the realm of that, I've recently partnered with basically a group that does a lot of Medicare called Chapter, right? Boop, there. And so bottom line is, if you have a Medicare question, you want to get a tune up on your, Medicare plan, you want to find out if your plan's going to be, messed up from the 14.6 billion in healthcare fraud that's going on that they've just been, coming out with, give them a call. You can give them a call. You can use a special little link here that they set up for me. But either way, bottom line is check in with them, because you don't want to lose your Medicare. A lot of you don't realize, but your benefits, like the check you get each month, is worth a very small amount compared to the massive amount of potential use and benefits of Medicare, because you can go to a bunch of doctors, you can have a bunch of, repeat reviews, you can go get second opinions, etc. You can do a lot more with Medicare, and, essentially have more money spent through medical treatment that you receive than your monthly check, which is quite tiny. I mean, if you ever sit back and think about some of these surgeries, I mean, some of these surgeries are $100,000 surgery, $200,000 surgery. They have just absolutely out there. So there's other stuff too that's $5,000 surgery. But the point is, that's actually worth a lot. And it's weird because people don't really call in to check and make sure that they've got a good setup. So either way, call Chapter if you want. Here's a little link. Here's a little number. But let's get into this emergency message. It is EM 25042. Let's get into it. Purpose. This EM notifies technicians, so SSA personnel, of certain TRICARE beneficiaries eligible for Part B enrollment under the Other Exceptional Conditions OEC Special Enrollment Period, known as SEP. So again, TRICARE, that's like, for, military, that's like a military. So basically, TRICARE is a military Medicare. Think of it like that, okay? Under federal law, TRICARE beneficiaries, excluding active duty service members and their families, who are entitled to Medicare Part A, must enroll in Medicare Part B to remain eligible for TRICARE benefits. Now, you might be thinking, hey, what the F? Why am I being forced to have to go ahead and utilize Medicare Part B by paying for it each month if I'm utilizing TRICARE? So let's see what it does. So let's see, Medicare Part B cost today. Let's see what it costs today. I think it's around 180. Yeah, it's $185. Yep. And then of course they have a schedule. So I don't know if you guys know this. Let me give you the quick run through. If you file your individual tax return and you have 106K or less in basic, earnings and stuff like that, then or file joint, joint tax return filing. So it's 106K, or if it's filed joint tax returns, 212K, you pay $185 a month. It's above 106K to 133K, you pay $259 a month. If it's above 133K to 167K, you pay $370 a month. If you had 167K to 200K, you pay $480.90 a month. If it's above 200K to 500K, you pay $591.90 per month. And then basically you get to essentially the final stage, the final boss, over 500,000 of basically, filed individual tax return, or your jointly, which would be 750K plus. Then you're looking at essentially $628 dollars per month and 90 cents. Or if you filed married and separate tax return, 394K and above. But most people don't fit into that category. Now, what's ironic about that is I almost pay $800 per month for my health insurance. But I do not actually make it into, I don't make it into the second category, which is like when boomers are like, oh, my Medicare is so expensive. I'm like, the fudge you talking about, bro? Like, what I pay is vastly more than what you pay. and I'm making way less than what you made during your time, which is why it's so upsetting. They're like, how we have it so bad. I'm like, I don't think you realize how bad it is for the working class right now. It is horrific. It is absolutely horrific. Princess Diana, thank you for the $2 donation. That's absolutely amazing. Let me get a little heart right there. That's awesome. Super duper cool. Very cool. Princess Diana has been with us for 1,000 years, and we appreciate it. She's royalty with this channel. Let's keep rocking through this real quick. Due to systems limitations, the Department of Defense erroneously maintained TriCare eligibility for approximately 1,600 beneficiaries who should have been disenrolled for failing to enroll in Part B based on their spouse's record. The DoD has completed system updates that will disenroll all individuals who should have enrolled in Part B based on their spouse's record, but didn't. Many will lose TriCare retroactively. So in other words, just to be fair, there's 1,600 people who are about to become real pissed and have and remember, it's TriCare retroactively will be removed. So if you were getting medical treatment and you were using TriCare, you're about to get a bad wake-up call, a very shitty Monday call. It's not going to be good. CMS has determined that the circumstances presented meet the threshold for granting Part B enrollment under the OEC SEP. The DoD will begin notifying TriCare beneficiaries of their OEC SEP eligibility in June of 2025. The notice will direct them to contact the SSA no later than December 31st, 2025 to enroll. In other words, you better get on that. You better get on that real fast. Just get on that. You know what I mean? Eligible individuals may mail in, fax, call, or visit a local field office to request Part B enrollment via form CMS 10797 and must present the DoD notice. Just so you guys know, I thought I printed it out. I guess I didn't. I didn't bring it up here with me. Here, let me read it to you, actually. Just give me 1 second because I can pull this up real quick. Hold on. I'll read to you exactly what the sheet says. That way you guys have exactly what they're looking for with this thing. Hold on. Emergency messages, EM25042. Here it is, DoD sample. So the DoD sample, here's what the letter is going to say to you. I mean, this is one of those red blinking light letters, so just be aware. Dear Miss Jane M. Doe, you're receiving this notice because you may be eligible for Medicare Part B. Let's just make it a little bit larger because I don't have my glasses on. Part B special enrollment period offered by the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. This special enrollment period waives the Medicare Part B late enrollment premium penalty and applies to TriCare beneficiaries who may be eligible for Medicare Part A on their spouse's record and therefore must have Medicare Part A and Part B. They want you to pay that monthly fee to remain eligible for TriCare. We strongly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. Under federal law, TriCare beneficiaries other than active duty service members, active duty family members, and uniform service family health plan enrollees who become eligible for Medicare Part A for any reason, regardless of age or place of residence, lose their eligibility for TriCare unless they have Medicare Part B. So in other words, they're going to make you pay the monthly fee. The Defense Enrollment Eligibility Reporting System, DEERS, reflects that you are not eligible for premium-free Medicare Part A under your own work record. However, you may be eligible for Medicare Part A based on the work record of your spouse. This is current, divorced, or deceased, veteran, you know what I mean? Or not, but, a soldier, military person. To maintain TriCare coverage, you must sign up for the Medicare Part A on your spouse's work record, and if eligible, also sign up for Medicare Part B. DEERS will be updated to terminate TriCare coverage effective December 31st, 2025. So the end of this year, you know what I mean? You got to act. You got to do this before December 31st, 2025. For every person eligible for Medicare Part A on their spouse's record in 2025, if they do not have Medicare Part A and Part B reflected on their DEERS record. An exemption to the termination of TriCare coverage is for those who present a notice of award or notice of disapproved claim, which documents ineligibility for Medicare Part A on their spouse's record. Failure to take advantage of this opportunity before December 31st, 2025 will result in the loss of TriCare effective January 1st, 2026. TriCare coverage will be reinstated the first date that your Medicare Part A and Part B coverage are effective, or you meet the exception requirements noted above. If eligible under their special rules, special enrollment period, the Social Security Administration will provide you with your specific Medicare Part B effective date. To take advantage of this special enrollment period, take this notice and complete an application for Medicare Part A and Part B, special enrollment period, Form CMS 10797 to your local Social Security office. So in other words, you gotta pay your Part Bs if you're eligible. If it comes back and says you're not eligible and you can't do it and yada yada, then there's exceptions, but you got to do it. If you don't do it and you're part of that whole like military situation, then just be aware you got to do it. All right. Now the rest of this emergency message, as released by the SSA, goes through basically complex coding numbers, what you should do, pending signed form CMS 10797, stuff like that. I don't really need to go through that with you because that is just what the employees of the SSA are supposed to follow. Like if somebody does this, you do that. When they do this, you do that. But the bottom line that I wanted to do this video is that A, it's an emergency message. You have to do it by a certain date in order to really, retain, and they punish you because it's retroactive. It's a removal of TriCare going backwards in time. And so the thing is, I just want you to keep in mind health insurance, health insurance, health insurance. A lot of you guys are just used to like whipping out your Medicare card and being like, it's good, don't worry. It's not always good. So bottom line is, if you're military-based family in some way, TriCare situation, make sure you check in and basically pay for Medicare Part B. Some of you don't want to pay for Medicare Part B because it's $185 or even more if you're making more. So just be aware. It is what it is. Okay. So it is what it is. Now, if you have more questions about Medicare, go over to these guys. Chapter right here. I partnered with them. I don't do Medicare. I'm going to be having more interviews about how Medicare works. What are some of the really, really amazing things that nobody really talks about? Some of the legal cases that have been recently coming out about fraud related to Medicare. You just saw $14.6 billion in healthcare related fraud, which is absolutely insane. But the bottom line is, if you want to check in with them, go ahead and do a tune-up on your Medicare. Make sure you have a great program. Head over to these guys. You can also use this link. All right. With that said, please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy these updates. Some of these updates are basically internal documents from the SSA, internal documents from other government agencies that I'm able to obtain and then share with you. I cannot share all things that I obtain. I cannot share all information that comes my way. I need you to understand that ahead of time. I'm Attorney Walter Hnot, the most viewed, clicked on, and subscribed to disability attorney in America. So if you have a disability claim, you get denied, or you want me to file your claim, give me a call at the law firm, the 407-279-1754. It's in the bio link below. But the bottom line is this. There's a lot of stuff I don't get to show you guys, which kind of upsets me. But there is a lot of stuff that I don't get to show you guys. And that is because there are a lot of records that are sealed related to this category of law. So just understand, sometimes I want to share stuff with you, sometimes I can't. What is the chapter number? The chapter number is 339-226-6287. Again, 339-226-6287. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and basically wish you all, do you guys want me to go live tonight where I answer questions? I can do that because we didn't have many. We had like 2 callers last night because it was like 1:30 something a.m. Do you guys, Rude Rabbit said, so Tristan said, yes, I want you to go live. All right. After this video, I'll go live and answer questions for free about disability law. Rude Rabbit said, we don't understand why they are sealed. Oh, I can tell you that one. But I'm going to get in trouble if I go too detailed. So let me keep it skin deep on that one. When I log into my Pacer account and then I go into the secondary account to access the actual case documents, they have a docket, right? And the docket basically has all stuff, complaints, motions, summaries, rulings, all. It's just blah, 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 docket, right? When I go into the docket, you'll see some of the information for these cases. Like, for example, a Social Security representative or a Social Security employee or a Social Security manager that, frauded the SSA. They will specifically take the certain documents that are in it and they will red tag them. And then they will put into them that in order for me to go ahead, a lot of them I can access, but some of them have an additional security layer where I'm not allowed to really click into it and access it unless the local county court, the local state court, the local federal court gives me permission ahead of time through my specific username account. And so when that happens, you basically have to call up and request permission. Will they allow me permission pretty much ever to go ahead and, deliver this information to you on what these Social Security employees or other people did to fraud the SSA? No, No. However, I did reach out to OIG recently, and I did request Office of Inspector General on behalf of the SSA that they form a relationship with me so that they could release to me, what were sealed and now have become unsealed. And I'm trying to get them to unseal some of these records so that you guys can actually learn what happened. Now, I feel like the category of cases that will be unsealed last in this situation are those employees of the SSA who committed fraud. And here's why. Inside the court documents, it explains sometimes inside their computer system, along with, the people that were the claimants that committed the fraud with them, it will explain the process by which they did things inside their computer system to commit the fraud. How they wiggled their way around the safeguards that are set up by the SSA. They do not want that information getting out because it's not like codes for the Big Bang, you know what I mean? But the bottom line is this: it's essentially stuff that they do not want the general public having access to because they're worried about the general public, working with some, hacker from India or Nigeria to go ahead and access and abuse, basically the Social Security system. They're worried about that fraud aspect getting out there of how to do it. So I feel like that particular group of individuals is less likely to be unsealed. However, I do sometimes reach out to local courts to say, hey, would you consider unsealing this, taking it from the sealed category and putting it into, green tagging it, or just basically gray tagging it like the rest of them are. And then basically the bottom line is I'll usually never hear back from them, but sometimes, and it's usually months and months and months and months later, could be 2 years, 3 years, they'll go ahead and unseal it and then I can deliver the information. But then at that point, the information isn't always timely and boom, big news. So then I have to go to, okay, what can I do? What can I not when it comes to relevant news? And I know some of you are like, why do you give us these internal documents from the SSA? Why do you bring up these emergency messages, etc.? It's because if you guys know what they're changing internally at the SSA, then you'll know where they're going with things in the future. I don't just read these to you so that you know, oh, okay, they're changing this right now. I read these to you because it tells you politically what has changed, on Capitol Hill, what law has led to this change where the SSA has to submit an emergency message to its own staff to change its protocols to keep up with what the Hill is doing. So, if you're ever wondering, why do I do these emergency internal documents from the SSA? It is because they tell you politically what's going on, how the SSA is shaping that political change, and what the future, and they're almost always restrictions. The restrictions on what you guys can do, what you guys can request, what you guys can access. It's almost always some form of a restriction. Okay. With that said, I'll do one more video after this. I have to create the thumbnail, but I will go live and answer questions for free. Please remember to go ahead and go to Google and type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. It'll pop right up. That's the law firm that I work for. Obviously, I represent people for disability benefits. But bottom line is, head there and go ahead if you want to leave some stars. I always appreciate it. I always love the likes, subscribes. I normally go live on Mondays and Thursdays. I will go live tonight. And then if you need a full hour where you just want to access my brain for an hour, there's a mini contract below where you can basically sign up for a 1-hour consultation. People dump a lot of interesting situations on me, and honestly, I have to get very creative with how they can waggle their way through that problem. But anyways, I will catch you in the next video in about, I'd say, give me 10 minutes, and we will rock and roll from there, and you'll be able to ask me questions. It'll be 5-minute consultations. We'll rock and roll and go into that. Thank you so much, Attorney Walter Hnot. Have a wonderful night, and we will go from there. All right, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.